Hey everyone, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I'm making this video today because I love hearing stories about how people got into their favorite bands. I grew up hearing how people first heard Led Zeppelin and it changed their lives, or the first time they heard Black Sabbath, and so on. But I thought I would do this video on Metallica because they were such a huge part of my life. And I really hope people that watch this leave their story in the comments section. That would be great to read, but I'll get the ball rolling. So I remember being a really young kid and I'd go to my best friend Al's house, and his older brother had a bunch of cassettes on the ledge in his room. It was kind of like his musical shrine. And I remember seeing Ride the Lightning and Garage Days. And I was really intrigued by the covers, but we really never listened to the cassettes. It was kind of like hands off. We weren't allowed to touch them. So already there was this allure of, oh no, there's something magical about these things because we can't even touch them, let alone listen to them. A few years later, I remember going to the junior high dance and I hated it because they were just playing a bunch of pop music that was big at the time. And I really wasn't digging it, but all of a sudden, for some reason, the DJ decided to play Blackened by Metallica. Now, I didn't know who it was, I'd never heard the song before, and all of a sudden I hear the lyrics, "See your mother put to death, see your mother die," or at least that's what I thought they were saying. They were actually saying, "See our mother put to death, see our mother die," which they're talking about Mother Earth, I believe. But it just seemed like such a hardcore thing to hear at a junior high dance. And then I looked around and a bunch of guys were headbanging, and I thought that was really interesting because I had never seen that before. And all of a sudden the chorus came and James goes, "Blackened." But I thought he was saying "f***ing." So I thought, man, this is really insane. Not too long after that, my cousin Jeff came over with the cassette tape for And Justice for All. And I didn't listen to it, I just looked at the cover, I thought it looked kind of cool, the logo was awesome. And he and my brother went in the other room and checked it out. And not too long afterwards, the video for One came on. And I took it as sort of a weird omen. I'm like, okay, that's a strange coincidence. But I remember really getting into it because it looked like no other video that was out at the time. So it was black and white. If you've seen the video, you know what I'm talking about. It's four guys jamming in this empty warehouse. And the footage is from a movie that was freaking me out. It was this guy who got his arms blown off and his legs blown off. And all he could do to communicate was to bob his head. And the movie's called Johnny Got His Gun, I believe, but it freaked me out. It was very Twilight Zone-esque. So the part of the video that grabbed me was right before the machine gun part, you know, in the breakdown when Lars is doing his double bass to emulate the machine gun sound. The camera view behind his feet really caught my attention. I'm like, oh, the drums can sound like that. That's amazing. And then all four of them doing the machine gun part, head banging together, and I just got this chill inside. So the next logical step was to beg my mom to buy me the And Justice for All record. I didn't have a job. I had no way to get money, so she agreed. We went to the mall. I picked it up, and my stepdad told me I should buy the actual record. His reasoning was I could dub the record onto a blank cassette, and then I could listen to the cassette until that wore out, and then I could just redub it again. And it made sense to me at the time. So I bought the record, and on the way home, I remember taking the sleeve out. And I was reading all the lyrics, and I was looking at all the pictures. I was even looking at the credits. I just took it all in. And it was kind of funny because I had heard One, so I was reading the lyrics for that, but I was also reading the lyrics to Eye of the Beholder and Shortest Straw. And so before I even heard the song, I was already memorizing the lyrics. It's really weird to do that because you kind of try to picture what the music's going to be like, and I was way off. So we went back to my mom's, and I remember putting the record in the record player, and I wore headphones because I didn't want to disturb anybody, and I wanted to be able to turn it up. And Blackened came on, and that reverse intro came in, and it really intrigued me. I was like, this is really interesting. And then it kicks in. But it wasn't until after the main solo that it really hit me. I did a video on this before, but that's when I say my DNA changed. It's the part right after the main solo where the drums build up and then it kicks into the main riff with a whole different beat. I just felt this wave of energy rush through me, and like I said, I felt like my DNA changed and I was different ever since that point. And that's when I wanted to become a drummer. Lars was my new hero. I felt the power of his drumming, and my grandma ended up giving me this practice drum kit that I played. And at the same time, my friend Al was getting into guitar, and it was like this perfect storm. Everything was coming together. Here we were, Metallica fans now, listening to them all the time, and now trying to play their music in my basement. It was really sketchy, though. He just had this tiny practice amp. We were both terrible, and my drum kit was, like I said, a practice kit, and I had a couple lamps for symbol holders. It was really pathetic, but we had a blast at the time. After Justice, I ended up buying Ride the Lightning, and man, it was so different I couldn't believe it. I remember putting the record on and being a little bit confused because the intro to Fight Fire with Fire is way different than the rest of the song. So it sounded acoustic and I wasn't sure where it was going. And then when it kicked in, I was like, okay, there we go. And it was the darkest and heaviest thing I ever heard. And it really blew me away. And then of course it's the 1, 2, 3 punch. You know, we had Ride the Lightning and then Vroom the Bell Tolls. And then Fade to Black came on. It was just like nonstop awesomeness. I remember looking at the sleeve for that one and seeing the pictures of Cliff Burton and being like, who's this guy? Because my first album was Just for All, so I thought Jason was always the bass player. I didn't know the backstory. And by the way the album looked and sounded, I thought the albums were recorded like 20 years apart. But in reality, it was only about 4. Like I said, my DNA had changed. I started to grow my hair out a little bit. I went and bought 5 Metallica shirts for the next year of school. And I was excited. I'm like, I'm going to wear one shirt, a different shirt for every day of the week. And by the time the 3rd day came around, this preppy, popular kid named Jason, he said out loud in class, he was like, dude, how many Metallica shirts are you going to wear? And everybody sort of laughed, you know. Inside, though, I had already started to change. It was that rebellious age. So instead of feeling intimidated by this popular kid, inside I was thinking, I really don't care what you think. You know, it was like that attitude started to grow within me. After all those years of being a scared little kid, I felt like I was getting stronger inside, and a big part of that was because I was listening to Metallica, and I felt like I belonged to this different group now. So it was about that time when I decided to ditch the drums and pick up the guitar. And so Al, my best friend who was taking guitar lessons and jamming with me, he kept playing guitar. And we would jam together as a duo, and our goal was to put together a band so we could play Metallica songs and do them justice, pardon the pun, as a full group. In my school, I started to notice that some people wore Metallica shirts and other people wore Megadeth shirts. So I kind of got intrigued by Megadeth. I love the artwork. I didn't know the backstory about Mustaine and Metallica and all that stuff. So I started listening to Megadeth, and one day I got one of their tab books, and I remember staying home from school so I could learn out of it. And being such huge Metallica fans, my friend Al came over after school to give me my homework that I had missed. And he saw that I was learning Megadeth, and he was actually hurt by it. And I remember before he left, he called me a traitor. And I was just like, what? Why can't I just love both bands? He eventually came around and became a huge Megadeth fan as well, so it all worked out in the end. And then in '91, the Black Album came out. And we had already got our band together, we were jamming a little bit, but it wasn't until all 4 of us went to the Black Album concert. So Metallica was on their Black Album tour, we were able to go, and that's when they had that big hexagon type stage that reached out all around, and we got to be really close to some of the members in the band at certain points of the show. Lars Ulrich came out, hit his kick drum, and it just like blew through us. And you know how I said my DNA changed the first time I heard that part in Blackened? Well, when Lars hit his kick drum and the band kicked in to Enter Sandman, I feel like the collective DNA for the band changed right then. And we were so inspired. We were like, you know what? We have to do this someday. We have to be on stage playing heavy, awesome music in front of all these people. We just had this brand new, renewed energy about the whole thing. And that enthusiasm and momentum carried us over many years, and we actually got pretty far as a teenage metal band, and I believe we owe it a lot to that concert, just because it was so inspiring for all 4 of us. And then if we fast forward, when my band eventually did break up, it was a dark time in my life. I remember I was delivering newspapers, so I was driving all by myself at night for many hours, and it was very depressing. And I mostly listened to Load, but unfortunately, because I was listening to it at such a bad time, I can't listen to that album anymore. Like if someone starts playing a song from that album, I just have to walk away. It's like I can't listen to it anymore. It just brings back too many bad memories. But I'll always be grateful that it was there for me when I really needed it. So I thought it was pretty fitting that after all these years, starting my YouTube channel, that my first big video, the one that broke 1 million first, was a video about Metallica. It's just like too perfect. So it was the one about the Enter Sandman intro, and it was actually a retraction video because I had made a mistake on a previous video. So the one I put out fixing that mistake is actually the one that got kind of popular right away. So isn't that strange? A band that I heard when I was a kid that I would have never thought would have affected me this much has been with me my entire life, all the way up until I made this channel, and is still today influencing me and inspiring me to make even more videos. That's why I put out a lot of Metallica related videos, because without them, I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff. I truly believe that. So that's my Metallica story. Like I said before, I would love to hear your story. Leave it in the comments, and I would actually love to nominate some YouTubers out there that I know were influenced by Metallica in a big way. I'll put your names and channels in the description area, and if you want to make a video in response to this, that would be great. I would love to hear your stories as well. All right, everyone, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you at the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.